so the real interesting thing here, and this is what it kind of boils down to, if there's more opportunity than ever, and there's more potential than ever for partnering with us and taking advantage of the greatest stuff we've ever created, which, by the way, ASM6, we have better stuff, more groundbreaking stuff than ever before, right? Then your real worry is what? What's your real concern if we had to break it down? At the end of the day, what is the real thing that's questioning you on whether you should sign up or you shouldn't sign up? Do you have a kind of an insight, or if you had to guess, Zane, what do you think that is that's holding people back?
To me, it's always that feeling of, okay, well, I see you do it and I see a bunch of other people do it, but can this really work for me individually? Seeing that I've never done something like this before. I mean, that's always at least when I first started, that was my feeling of like, well, it's Jason Fladlin. He can do all sorts of amazing stuff, but I don't know if I can.
Yeah, it really can be, the positive way of looking at it is belief in yourself. That's what really holds everybody back at the end of the day, because it's not opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
This opportunity is better than it's ever been. It's not the investment, because come on, I'm guaranteeing your profit, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So it's not that, right? It's not a fear of failure even. That's just the negative way of looking at it. Fear. It's a fear of success. It's a fear of having to take on responsibilities. It's a fear of, yes, there's customers that are going to be dependent on you. You know, when Will's wife sells 4,000 units a day, that's 4,000 real world people who buy a product and expect something. Mm-hmm. It's 4,000 people who have exchanged money for something that they feel is more valuable than the money that they had to exchange. That's the scary part. That's what you're really probably afraid of. And I know this because I've worked with more people hands-on to get them over this, to help them start selling. My very real fear on my end is not getting through to you in time. Let me tell you a story. It's about a gentleman named Chaz Key. Okay? Chaz Key saw ASM1. I told him personally, as we sell the family members, as we sell people that we know personally, friends, acquaintances, anybody, we tell them this is it. You know, I ignore all the damn gurus. They don't know any better, right? Listen to your heart. And we say to them, listen, this is it. But they're scared. So Chaz is scared. ASM1 does not say yes. ASM2 does not say yes. ASM3 finally says yes. Finally. Within 9 months, I believe it was around 9 months. It might have even been sooner. It might have been 6 months. $100,000 a month. First $100,000 a month. Okay? Just recently this year, in June, $400,000 plus month for a guy who's been selling on Amazon less than 16 months.
I remember Chaz. I've hung out with him a couple of times at different events, and I remember you also talking to him just after ASM2. He's like, I don't know, and it just kept hemming and hawing over and over again.
Just as you're probably scared right now, thinking about should I or shouldn't I sign up. And I won't give up on you. And if it takes several times of me having to hunt you down and do it, that's fine. But here's the really great thing. When I bring Chaz up, people cheer and applaud, and they say, wow, look at those numbers. That's fantastic, and they feel good for him. But you know what, Zane? I still can't shake the feeling. What if he would have started earlier? It wouldn't have been $400,000. It would have been probably over $1 million, right? And you say, well, gee, Jason, $400,000 is a lot. Well, maybe it is, right?
Oh, absolutely it is. I mean, there's only a small group of people who would think that would be a small number.
Yeah, maybe it is. But maybe it's not, actually. If you really think about what you want to accomplish and what you want to build for not only your rest of your life, but the generation after you, then their generation after them, right? And then the legacy and what you really want to accomplish and what you want to do with that, the freedom that you want to pursue from that. Maybe it's a lot, maybe it's not a lot. But here's what's really scary. If you let that fear hold you back, you'll never really know. And the flip side of it is, what happens if you go out there and you pick a product that doesn't work? Well, I'll tell you, I've seen people do that before. Most of them become my best success stories, saying, you know why? Because there's never a better education than learning firsthand and doing firsthand and then comparing, oh, that's where I went astray. Because you won't make that mistake again. Only the dumbest, stupidest people in the world, when they run into a wall, do they get back up and run into that same wall again, right?
Right.
They exist, but any reasonable person, if you've managed to find me on the internet right now, you're smart enough to know that if the door's over there, you're not going to keep running at the wall, right? So some of my most successful people, the first time they pick the product, they fail. Now, here's the good news. You pick a product, doesn't work the first time, the police don't come and arrest you and throw you in jail, right?
Right.
You're out a little bit of money up front. Now, over time, I've seen every single person who stuck with it has always sold all of their inventory. So, yes, you didn't make $1 billion overnight. Join the club, right? But furthermore, you learn, which is the best experience you could ever get, and you make an adjustment and you go at it again. And that's what we do. And as long as you're willing to do that, I'm willing to do that with you, as we have proven. At this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I was out there tricking people, if I was out there promising things that don't exist, we would have never continued to have more people sign up with ASM than the previous time. And our reputation wouldn't have grown as for what we deliver on ASM as it has. So clearly we've talked the talk, and also we have walked the walk. But the real scary thing is when you're fearful, it's really easy to let self-doubt catch you. And let me give you some of the self-doubts. Well, there's this other program over here that supposedly also teaches Amazon, and it's really, really cheap. Let me buy that instead. That's a good way to hide your fear, by going halfway in or going a quarter way in. And you say, well, gee, Amazon is really risky because I got to buy all this inventory up front. There's a lot of outline of cash up front. And let me figure out a way where I don't have to spend any money up front. Yeah, that way's called McDonald's.
Yep.
I mean, little risk, little reward, right? Now, I am not one to take massive risks. I've never have in my life. I've never been a gigantic risk taker. I've always been very practical, pragmatic, and conservative at the end of the day. But let's really face it. If you really want to get going in this world and you think $100 or $200 or $300 or $400 or $500 business is going to get you there, it might, right. but that's riskier to me than making the adequate investment. So it's not what you invest, it's the value you get, okay? But it's easy to say, well, let me just dip my toe in. And you never really get wet that way, right? So that's the second fear that's very easy to let you get in. The third one is to say, well, gee, look at all these people making all this money. They've already cashed in. They've already scooped up. But let me put it to you another way. 0.74%. You know what that number is, Zane?
0.4?
0.74%.
It sounds like some kind of how much effort's actually put in, or how many people actually do something, or something along those lines, maybe.
That's a good guess, and I like that. If you imagine a pie, and that pie represents total commerce done, meaning every dollar spent to buy something,
mm-hmm.
and you sliced out 0.74% of that pie, that's Amazon's share of total commerce.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Total commerce.
Yep. Isn't that interesting?
Jeez.
So how much room does Amazon have to grow?
A huge amount. Massive.
And every year they're growing at a startling rate. There will come a day when over 50% of all commerce happens on the internet or online as opposed to offline. But I'm telling you, Zane, we got 20, 30, 40 years to go unless some massive revolution takes place. So here's the deal. Now, and it's very easy to think about it this way, right? How many of your friends do you know that don't buy on Amazon today?
It's not many, and it's
Does your mom buy on Amazon?
Yes.
Does your dad?
Yep.
Wow.
Everybody, my family, my friends, like
you're cutting edge.
The number of people are getting smaller and smaller.
You are cutting edge because I know a tremendous amount of people that don't buy on Amazon as it exists today. I know more people besides in my professional life, of course. I know more Amazon sellers than anybody, right? But in my personal life, very few people I know buy on Amazon. And if they do, they don't buy very often. And by the way, who do you know that buys more off Amazon than they do?
Oh yeah, well most of the time it has to do with usually comes up with like Christmas and gifts and things like that. It's always we'll just go on to Amazon and buy it there, but it's not like this is my shopping list and now I'm going to go to Amazon and buy that stuff. Like it's not to that level.
Exactly, but it will get to that level one day. It absolutely will. I mean, if you look at the average household and what they spend per week, and then you look at the percentage of that goes to online, and then furthermore the percentage of that goes to Amazon. It's laughable how small that really is. So we're over here thinking, oh my God, this is a gigantic market. Oh man, it's like billions and billions of dollars are being sold every day on Amazon. That's huge, right? Nothing. But the other growth chart that you want to look at is the rate of growth per year. Mm-hmm. And the percentage of online e-commerce, as we call it, versus offline. It's growing at a staggering rate of 6 times what offline is growing at. And so yes, there will come a year, and I'm predicting, Zane, it's the year 2025. So what is that, 10
2025.
years from now?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Good
Where
solid decade.
e-commerce will equal regular commerce, where 50% of the dollar will be spent online as opposed to offline, or digitally at least, as opposed to physically. Okay? Now,
Wow.
if you want to wait till 2025 to take advantage of that, what do you suppose is going to happen to you?
Well, you're gonna suffer way more than if you were gonna jump in now.
Why wouldn't you jump in now? If that's where it's going, milkmen, that's what you are, right?
Yeah.
You're a milkman.
Yeah.
Right now, if you're resisting the temptation. And by the way, I'm not talking information goods. For every person you know that's buying an information good online, there's a million transactions that are taking place for physical, tangible,
Yeah.
actual, household, everyday goods. Okay? Think about that, for example. But
Yeah.
here's the deal, okay? If this thing is growing at a rate that we can't stop it, and you want to resist that, you're a milkman. You're somebody that says, no, 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 no. I don't want to change. I'll just keep delivering the milk, and hopefully I'll have a job next year. Well, there ain't no milkmen anymore, right?
Mm.
You're a newspaper. Well, we'll just keep creating a newspaper, and let's hope that people want to subscribe to it. Gone. We're almost gone, right?
Well,
You
it's like you were
adapt.
saying before, positioning, right? Like you want to be positioned. I mean, I keep hearing in the news, I think it's not a matter of if, but when we start seeing those Amazon drones delivering products within an hour of ordering them. I mean,
Absolutely.
that right there to me is okay. That's the real race. Like, get as many products as you can in before those drones start flying, and then at that point, yeah, go ahead, cash your check, you're done, call
And
it
by
good.
the way, I believe it's 12 cities, Amazon already has hour delivery set up for certain items.
Oh wow! I think what New York was one of the first ones. I think maybe, or maybe it's just on the list, but makes me jealous. Makes me want to move.
Well, the point of it is it's eventually going to get everywhere, right? This
Hmm.
is it's not something that's a fad. It's not something that's a flash in the pan. A lot of people like to compare it to the gold rush, but here's the deal: gold is a finite resource that you have to dig into the
Yeah.
ground and take out. Products, they're not a finite resource. Selfie stick, okay? 4 years ago, nobody bought a selfie stick.
Hmm.
Now, nobody buys them anymore again because everybody already bought one, right?
Hmm.
There are more product and product opportunities and product and markets that are looking for products than ever before. Amazon is selling more than ever before. Amazon is creating new opportunities such as customization, such as Prime Day, such as subscribe and save, such as same day delivery, such as Sunday delivery than have ever existed
So,
before. Right?
so it sounds like even you projected to get 2025 when it's really super saturated. Even at that point, it sounds like that's something that even the people in ASM Masters will still be around to say, here's all the other new stuff, even though it's 2025 and Amazon is on everybody's tongue. There's still ways to continue on and make even more money because Amazon's not just going to stop and go, okay, we're good. They're just going to keep going, right?
Absolutely. And by the way, don't think Amazon's the only game in town. I mean, there's plenty of
Ah,
other
true.
channels that you can utilize. Every time a new competitor of Amazon pops up, I get giddy with excitement, saying because we can
Hmm.
just as easily sell in those channels as we can in Amazon. And furthermore, it pressures Amazon to improve their product. And by their product, I mean their ability to let third-party sellers sell under their brand name in their market, utilizing their fulfillment services, where you don't have to do a damn thing other than send Amazon your product and then make sure you're found where Amazon shoppers are looking for your
Yeah.
product, which is
Does,
actually at this point ridiculously easy
yeah.
to do.
Doesn't Amazon have like some specific? Maybe I misread it or something. Like maybe but like they have goals. Like they want to bring more third party sellers in. Like they have a certain percentage now, and I don't know what it is, but they want it to grow to a higher percentage. I don't know if you know that
Yeah, so
what that might be.
57%, according to most statistics, are
Wow,
of all sales done on Amazon are done by third-party sellers. More than half of them, right? And Amazon
57.
realizes that the easiest way to continue to reach more people and sell more products is not to create them. It's to let other people who've already licensed, created them, invented them, or in our case, I don't want to invent a damn thing. I just want to slap a label on it and win through superior marketing, which is what we're known for, right? And then
Mhm.
putting them on there and selling them on Amazon, okay? Now, here's where it's interesting. Earlier, I said something where I said we single-handedly changed the course of how Amazon operated.
Oh, yeah.
And
What's that all about?
so here's what's really great. A lot of people confuse success with being overcrowded or saturated. And here's the deal. A lot of people, yeah, they don't have the advantages that we have. So they can sell on Amazon, but they'll never realize the success that we have. And, you know, it's not fair, but it is what it is, right? But there's some people that were so successful so quick that Amazon recently made some policy updates, some terms of service updates. And it's really, really interesting because they singled out some very specific methods that they said we are no longer going to allow. Now, here's what I find is funny, Zane. A lot of those methods we had pioneered several years ago, and they were so effective at the short term, which is immediate presence on Amazon in ways that people can immediately reach you and buy from you, that Amazon specifically had to do something about it. And I always laugh because here's the deal. It proved the model, right? I mean, if we were that effective, where we take the single biggest e-commerce store in the world and they have to do a terms of service update to deal with it, clearly it worked. But then it also asked the question, well, what happened when the terms of service update? Well, here's the deal. This is why people pay the big bucks to follow me, Zane, at the end of the day, is I'm the longest of the long-term thinkers. And I anticipated, and I knew it was going to happen in advance of it happening, this happening. And here's why. Because eventually any shortcut, any technique, any method, any real insider advantage trickles down. It just does. Eventually, that information will reach everybody's ears, and everybody will have the opportunity to take advantage of it. And what happens when everybody knows about it?
Well, then that's where you hit that saturation point, and someone
It
says
loses its
something's got to
effectiveness.
change. Yep.
Yeah, it loses its effectiveness. I want to have that thing that very few people have. Now, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, that's very few people. But eventually, through observation or through whispers or through hanging out and networking, that thing does trickle down to hundreds of thousands or millions of people or millions of sellers and so forth, right? And so because I know this to happen, I constantly have to be the pioneer coming home full of arrows. And don't cry for me. It's made me a multimillionaire before the age of 30, right?
You got tough skin.
I mean, I'm willing to take the arrow. Most people, you do not want to take the arrows. You got to push in and you got to give it hard. But that's what I do. It's what I'm born to do. It's what I'm good at. It's what I'm natural at. You don't have to be the pioneer. Just follow the pioneer. All right? And maybe I'm the pioneer for you, and maybe you want to follow me and take the next step right now, and you can do so clicking through on this video here. Or maybe you want to look for another pioneer. But the point of it is, it's very few people are born to be the pioneer. It's much better in most people's instances to follow the pioneer, the person who specializes, lives, breathes, eats, and sleeps this as I do, and then leading in the ASM Masters community, okay? So because I was aware of this happening over a year before it ever happened, while everybody else, now think about it, by the time it reaches telephone, you know, meaning that like I whisper to you, you whisper it to her, she whispers it to him, they whisper it to them. Not only are they still not doing it correctly at that point because it's been so muddled, but how effective is it when it gets to that point where everybody knows about it? Yeah, you lose any advantage you have. So because I've been very savvy to that, and we've done this ever since ASM has ever existed, which is why we've always stayed on the cutting edge, which is why people always go to us more than anybody else to learn how to sell on Amazon, which is why we continue to have the most success stories and the biggest success stories and the greatest success stories, right? Here's the deal. We anticipated this just like I anticipated Prime Day and knew about Prime Day first before anybody, Zane. What we did is we adjusted in advance 6 months before we needed to be in the position. So as soon as these changes happen, we were so primed to take advantage of the new opportunities they created. Because I want you to imagine this. If there's 100 people selling your market and 99 of them are doing it the same way, and then all of a sudden they're told to stop doing it that way, the one person who's not doing it that way, what do you suppose happens? I know a lot of people still using the old-fashioned way and doing reasonably well for themselves. But if I'm going to put the time and I'm going to put the money in, I'm going to put the effort in, I want to do it right. I want to do it the best way, right? I mean, I hope so. I mean, I hope that's what everybody's thinking. I hope that's what you're thinking, Zane. I hope that's what people listening right now are thinking. If I'm going to put the time, money, and effort in, if I'm going to lay it on the line, if I'm going to step up, I might as well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right.
Amen.
And
Amen
so there's a lot of people doing it the old school way, and it's overblown the effect that it's had. But imagine this way. If 99 people are now doing it in a way, and they're trying to restrict that way or trying to limit that, and there's one person who's doing it a different way. Not only do they get that insider advantage, but they also
Ah,
get the whole damn market to themselves. If
yeah.
if you're hip to that way,
Yeah.
if you know that shortcut, if the resources that have been curated and secured for you and paid for or created on your behalf, if those exist and you have advantage to them, then you have that very, very, very enviable
Yeah.
position.
What were you saying before? There was, I think it was ASM3. You were talking about. It's like crossing an ocean, right? And ASM Masters as the guide. You can go as fast or as slow as you'd like, but you have different modes that you can go through. The important part is making sure you're with the right crowd, as you just said a little bit earlier.
Absolutely. And so here's the real question, and this is what I always get Zan, at the end of the day. The real question not is, does it make sense to sell on Amazon or not? Because Amazon obviously makes sense. If you're going to sell online, why would you ignore the number one seller in existence online? That's foolish. It's the number one brand. It's the number one place that people have credit cards on file with. It's the number one most trusted, easiest way to do shopping on mobile devices as well as regular devices.
That's
Why would
true.
you ignore that? That'd be like saying, well, I got two legs, but if, I'll just run this race on one leg.
Because then I could save the other one, right?
I guess, right? And so it's like we can agree that Amazon is still amazing as overall way of selling. And then you say, well, gee, Amazon's growing every year. Retail as a whole, e-commerce is eating up and growing every single year. And if there's only a few thousand people at the end of the day always on the cutting edge, and the cutting edge does change, but if you're getting the cutting edge consistently from somebody who always provides it, you'll always have that advantage there, right? Then you say, okay, that makes sense. You can say, listen, I know the investment is substantial, but it's not without the ability of anybody who's serious to be able to come together and figure out how they can come up with the investment to make it happen. I understand it can hurt, but I know you can do it because we're not asking for hundreds of thousands of dollars to get started here, which is usually what most real, genuine opportunities cost. Okay? So we could say, okay, even if it hurts a little bit, you can make the investment. The real question I get, Zane, is none of those.